the next 15 minutes, I hope to share with you today our experience, our short experience in developing uh, food secure communities. And nagustuhan ko na kasunod ko si nakasunod ako kay Yusek Panadero because as he illustrated, there are already very good programs in nutrition. And in trying to pursue food secure communities, food security and nutrition are very much integrated. My presentation will revolve around the timeline of our engagement, which is essentially a sharing, and much of this work was also done by Randy Cachu, who is now part of the LSU. I guess Randy will have a way of reflecting on this in retrospect as well of the good work he has done. So some of the instruments he was part of in developing this together with Galing Pook, because the models that we got initially during our modeling were Galing Pook winners. In 2017, we basically went through a best practice modeling and piloting. We gathered 25 LGUs, most of them from Galing Pook, and in best practices in agri-food security, and created a roadmap based on meta-analysis because there's really no framework for food security in the country. There is a nutrition program that is health-based, but in agriculture, our agri-system is very much enterprise-oriented and production-oriented. So agri-industry tayo nakafocus. In 2018, we started understanding the gaps in the LGU that needs to be developed. And we also deepened our intervention, seeing those gaps. In 2019 to 2020, we actually went deeper and focused on communities and families. And in one sharing that I have, I will share with you a direct intervention we made with a family that actually did better during the COVID lockdown. In 2017, we worked with LGUs and mayors with the League of Organic Agriculture Municipalities and Cities. This was through a bridging leadership program that hopes to strengthen their sustainable agriculture towards food security. We also worked with Angat Buhay through the Office of the Vice President, Lenny Robredo, and also some areas in SEAOIL where we have our depots. Altogether, it was just 10 LGUs. We have these roadmaps that we developed, as I mentioned earlier, but it only focused on food accessibility and sufficiency. So we did not really focus on income and agri-enterprise. We wanted to focus on the first part. Of the 10 LGUs, only 7 was able to move towards sustainable agri-food security through the family farm implementation. And I'd like to underline this second part of our learning. Monitoring of the families towards the family farm productivity were not sustainable, even with ad hoc arrangements and incentives with these LGUs. So ibig sabihin, even with the mayors that were already invested in these agri-food security systems, the monitoring and sustainability was not yet there. We also realized that municipal agricultural offices were not very receptive because this was something new to them in 2017. But nevertheless, in 2018, through our engagements with LOMC and the 7 LGUs, we were able to achieve 80% food diversity with participating communities, and as much as 85 to 93% hunger-free with participating communities as well. Okay, wait, I suddenly lost my screen. Hang on. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see it.
Thank you. However, when we start to ask these mayors, can we start scaling? And they even have their investment plans all set. But we found out that the programs were not scalable, not because of lack of resources from the LGU or lack of knowledge, but rather there was no system in trying to define food secure. For example, we have no knowledge of what secure means. So these indicators that we got were some things that we agreed upon. For example, the hunger index is based on a proxy of uh, um, rice. The food security is based on a set of basket of necessary diverse food sources that are nutrition aligned. But there was no clear prescription of what these are. So when we talk about food secure, it was very difficult to communicate. So we decided in 2018 to deepen our engagement. We actually built tools and systems towards engaging the family and the community. One of the first one was the Family Farm Toolkit. It is a structured engagement for a family, a farming family, towards diverse agriculture that is good for 6 months. So when they follow this, is actually a step by step. Si Randy kasama sa gumawa nito. And it did help. This was our learning when we deployed this together with LOMC. By the way, we were partners with DAATI. When we huddled, we realized that DAATI was very much demo farming oriented. They were not outcome oriented. So they had the resources and all their infrastructures towards creating demo farms, which was good. But they could not move beyond that and look at the outcomes of these demo farms. You need to be able to do this to get to a food security perspective. There was a low critical engagement between agri and nutrition councils. So nutrition councils were very conscious of the nutrition issues, but they were not conscious of food security. They just gave out seeds. While agri councils or agri offices were not too concerned with the health issues of the first 1,000 days, as Yusek Panadero would say. And item 3, there was no clear food security organization structures at the barangay or LGU level. So it's either you're an agriculture or you are a nutrition, but there was nothing that was melded. So we needed to focus on barangay level development to be able to achieve food security goals. In 2019 to 2020, we decided to do direct intervention and to really be able to see the dynamics of hunger further. And we worked with 19 families, particularly to look at the systems and measures of food security. In this case, we piloted the household food insecurity access scale. No? I won't go into that because that's very technical, but that's widely available. And if you notice, when we piloted this, tinamaan siya ng COVID lockdown. This was in Pilar, Sorsogon. But in spite of the lockdown, the family farm contributed to 19.42% of the income. These were with at-risk families. So these were families with some nutrition issues already, but their income increased. Household access to food also became better. From March, they had a 5.6 based on the HFIAS scale. In May, they have a 5.2. The lower the number, the better. It's a range from 1 to 27. So essentially, we knew that sustainable agriculture will work at the family level. But once again, it was difficult trying to work and it wasn't sustainable. When we started, after sometime in August, the families started to become hungry again. And we realized that we have to build stronger relationships towards this. So we're trying to work with the food security task force in barangays and LGUs. What was our learning? For SEAOIL, for this, we need to build food security systems from the ground up. This means empowering barangay towards adaptive measures in developing agri-food security and nutrition awareness and coping capacity. We need to work with existing structures at the barangay level towards building capacity and understanding hunger and food security dynamic. Kasi ang orientation sa atin, hunger is always addressed with income. That's not really the case. Income is just one of the strong drivers. But food security is much more complex than that. We need to be able to establish a barangay development strategy roadmap, and we're actually on our way with that. We already have a roadmap for the LGU. We have we have a change model and a roadmap for barangay as well, and we're currently discussing that with our team. But for today, if we have to reimagine local governance in this discussion, we really need to develop front lines for food security specifically. This can be a meld of BNS, BHW, and agri-technical team, but some of the competencies in agriculture and nutrition need to be there. We need to develop agri-food security systems, resources, and policies at the national level to support LGUs. If I am going to do some policy recommendations, specifically, frontline workers similar to BNS and BHWs, as I've mentioned, for the health part, they have to be focused on maternal and child. For the LGUs to set up community farms and markets with knowledge in monitoring basic commodities towards food access and availability. LGUs to incorporate market-to-table perspectives in their local economic development strategies. Kasi pag puro tayo farm to market, but kulang tayo ng market-to-table. Establish learning farms that specifically target vulnerable families. No? At the national level, we need to have clear measures and policies for improving food access and availability. Sample, NFA should provide food entitlements to vulnerable families, not only during pandemic, but as a regular and strategic perspective. We need food security technical measures such as HFIAS and FIES to move beyond census data. Kasi our food security, our hunger is usually measured in census and not in something that is actionable at the LGU and barangay. We need to establish policies for public land access to communities, and very especially establish diversified family farming national policy similar to what the UN FAO is advocating. And if anybody's interested, that can be downloaded. There's actually a family farming decade of advocacy by UN, and these are the pillars. I will not go into this. We can download that because I only have 2 minutes. It is very detailed, including a working action plan. Before I end, I'd like to bring in Brazil, this Brazil story with this one slide. Brazil evolved their agriculture from 1996 to 2006 using the PRONAF program. And now their agriculture contributes to 23.5% to GDP in 2017, contrasted to ours at 8%. 4.4 million families or family farms in Brazil make up of 85% of all agriculture operations. And the family farms there, which means diversified farming, produces 70% of food consumed, and it only uses 25% of Brazil's agricultural land. So you can imagine that picture where you have 70% of the food coming from family farms rather than monoculture industrial farms. It becomes more stable, it becomes more resilient, and what happens is that they become more resilient to crisis and pandemics. So food security cannot just be in the COVID period, but rather it is something that's built up. As a measure siguro of our knowledge in food security, a good way of asking yourself, ano ba yung Tagalog ng food security? We have a Tagalog for hunger, which is gutom, but the response to that is food security. Pag tinanong mo yung mga nasa barangay, anong solusyon sa gutom, ang sasagutin sa'yo, dagdag kita. So, the opposite of hunger is income. That may not be the right thing. We need to be able to understand food security and hunger dynamic deeper. and look at that towards a midterm and a long term. Maraming salamat po.